Hi everyone, and welcome to a video taking a look at another in-development game. We've got a lot of in-development RTSs coming up in the next couple of years, and this one really sparked my interest. Now, I'm a huge fan of Supreme Commander and Forged Alliance, and this game I can only describe as the spiritual successor to those titles. And it's also had the seal of approval and thumbs up from Chris Taylor himself. You can see the videos on their own channel of that. The game I'm talking about is obviously Sanctuary Shattered Sun. This is a massive title on a massive scale, and a lot of work has already gone into this game, and there's a long way yet to go. So I want to stress at this stage that any videos I show during this are work in progress, and I will remind you at the time, because things are rapidly changing and being updated, etc, etc, etc. So what I show today will be a mixture of a video which is showing some in-game combat and stuff, which is very kindly being provided by the development team. And then I will also be showing lots of concept art, lots of other screenshots of, explosions and things like that, the artwork that is going into the game. And then as things progress, obviously, hopefully we'll get access and we'll be able to have a little play around with it as well. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll hopefully be doing an interview with the development team. And if you have any suggestions for questions you would like asked, obviously sensible ones, please, do let me know in the comments down below, and I'll obviously consider adding those into that video. So let's talk about Sanctuary Shattered Sun. So the first thing to say is it has three factions like the original Subcom. It has the Earth Defense Alliance, which remind me a lot of the GDF. They are stalwart tanks, the big bulky machines. And then you've got the Chosen, which remind me a lot of the Aeon. They're a society of post-humans who transferred their consciousness from flesh into machines, and they look very sci-fi, very alien. And then you've got the Guard, which were Sanctuary's builders, and they look a lot like the Cybermen to me. They've got that sort of very industrial look to all of their robots and things like that and their buildings. So I think the follow-up to mentioning the three factions is also to then say, hang on a minute, what is the Sanctuary? So for those of you who don't know, the Sanctuary is basically a megastructure. It is a Dyson sphere around the sun. And just to make clear, this is Earth's sun. It's set in the year 2758. So it's a long time in the future, and this huge Dyson sphere that embraces the sun has over 1 trillion lives on it. And obviously it's not completely finished, and there's been issues as they've been building it, such as they attempted to move the Earth's moon into Sanctuary to use its resources to build more, but disaster struck and it crashed into Sanctuary and killed billions. And then all throughout this, there has been this ongoing feud and war between the EDA and the Chosen. And in response to this ongoing war and the destruction of various parts of the Sanctuary, the creators, the AI that built the Sanctuary, have formed their own faction, building their own force and attempting to defend Sanctuary from these two opposing forces and wipe them out. Now, I'm going to say straight away, because I don't want to sell this game short, they're trying to do some different things than was available in Supreme Commander and Forged Alliance, and some of that to the extreme. And some of this is not implemented yet, and some of it will only be implemented if they get the right amount of funding. So at the moment, they have various individual investors that have put money into the pot to help fund development of this game, which is really good. And it's allowed them to sort of stave off needing to do a Kickstarter. And the intention is still to do a Kickstarter, but the more funding they get before that from these individual investors means that they have more money to make the game better before they hit the Kickstarter stage, and then they can perhaps put out demos and things for that Kickstarter. Okay, so with all that said, let's split into two different sections. First, we're going to talk about the stuff that is definitely going to be in the game, one way or another, and then we'll talk about the stuff that's going to be in the game if the Kickstarter happens and they succeed and they get enough investment from somewhere else. However they get it, that's going to be stuff that will be added if they can afford to do it. So basically, first let's talk about what's going to be in it. So they're going to have skirmish player versus player. There's going to be definitely two factions, but probably all three, because they've done a lot of work on all three already. There's going to be at least 50 units, including buildings, per faction. There's going to be fully fledged land and air armies, and navy will be up in the air if they don't make enough cash. Support for up to 10,000 units per map, which is a lot. Up to 8 people per game. and at least 5 beautiful maps of varying sizes. But let me say right now, the community is already making maps for this. If you head on over to the Discord, which I'll link below, you can join in and assist them in making maps already. So you can design maps, you can help them out, and potentially have your map in the game, which I think is absolutely fantastic. They're also going to have things like full modding and mapping support and Discord integration so you can invite your friends. However, in this situation, there isn't going to be a single player campaign or experience. There may be AI, they're not sure. They have someone who's been working on it, someone who also worked on Forged Alliance Forever's AI mods and things like that. However, they're not guaranteeing it'll be amazing unless they get the funding. Now we get to move on to the absolutely awesome stuff. So what will set this game apart from Supreme Commander and Forged Alliance? Now, some of this does rely, obviously, on them making enough cash. But the reality is, I don't think they're going to have any issues doing that, because all of these investment calls asking people to put money into the game have all been very successful so far, and they've currently got one running, which is being pretty successful as well. They also have a Patreon where people are helping to fund the game's development. So all signs are pointing to this working out in the long run. So what will be in the game if it all succeeds and they get all the money they need? So full-fledged naval army for all the factions, a fully featured campaign telling a rich and epic tale, story will be playable in co-op or alone, an AI with varied settings and adaptable to your needs, automated matchmaking for ladders ranging from 1v1 to 8v8, a rating system plus our full suite of player stats with a replay vault, at least 25 beautifully crafted maps with a sense of verticality, so you know there's going to be up and down, and we'll get into all that. Randomized map generation, 2 high-stake tournaments hosted by those guys on their own servers, starting in the middle of a replay if you want to, so that's a new thing, being able to mess around with a replay and actually jump in, I believe, and play the game yourself. Pick up as a player at any chosen point in the replay. So there you go, any player you can just start playing, because it's just the script running. And then with a full close and restart of the game, reconnect support to those multiplayer games you're in, picture-in-picture notifications, War over the Dyson Sphere seasons, multiplayer metagame, and it will have Linux support. But honestly, that's not even the best stuff. So some of the things that are going to set this apart from Forged Alliance, for example, is going to be the ability to fracture the map. So the intention is that you'll be able to use super weapons to actually fracture the map and break open parts of it to let the rays of the sun underneath through, and you will actually be able to see the sun through the map. And there will be holes in various maps where you can see the sun anyway, and basically this will completely alter the ability to traverse the map. Maybe the sun's rays are so powerful they will actually damage aircraft that fly over that area, and obviously you can't get across with vehicles anymore because the map's missing. And then there's going to be other implementation of similar map changing things, weather being a big one. So you can perhaps have a completely frozen map, a completely overheated map with lava, or you can have some kind of acid storm that leaves clouds of acid in the air which will damage aircraft over time. There will be different levels of frozen, so it could just be that the top layer of ice is frozen and some of the ships and some of the ground units will have the ability to be icebreakers and break that ice, and then you'll have situations where everything freezes completely and even submarines under the ice will be frozen, and units like at the seabed as it were will also be frozen and potentially destroyed. And this will be a changeable feature is the intent, so there will actually be weather control stations on the map, or perhaps weather control super weapons that will allow you to manipulate the weather, and obviously the intention being that this can then be reversed. Moving on from those two very map focused or orientated abilities, there's also going to be a level of destruction not seen in previous games like this. So you'll be able to destroy buildings that will be located around the map, which will collapse onto enemy units or indeed your own units. You'll also be able to collapse and repair various bridges that will be located on these maps, completely again allowing you to change the flow of a map and the ability to traverse it. There will also be various little cliffs, rocky outcroppings, little spikes of rock that you'll be able to again interact with and destroy, and then likely be able to reclaim these as well. This is all like spitballing ideas that they've still got going round, but this is sort of the intention and the plan of where they're going. Now, moving on from that, let's talk about the Commander. Now, the Commander is obviously a very important unit in this style of game, and they're not just leaving it as it was in Supreme Commander and Forged Alliance, where you get your Commander and there's a few upgrades you can do to it. There's two fantastic things they have planned. One thing is what they're calling Second Wind, which is basically if your commander gets sniped, which does happen in Forged Alliance and Supreme Commander and can be quite devastating when it suddenly happens, or you get ganged up on by multiple players with all of their bombers, you will now get a Second Wind, where after a certain period of time, your commander will resurrect. I'm not sure if it's on the same spot or somewhere else, I assume at the same spot, but the idea being that if you do get sniped, you will have one opportunity, just one, to resurrect and continue playing the game. And that obviously makes a huge difference. It means that yes, you can snipe someone, but there is, a chance that they will recover from that. Perhaps enough time for their allies to come and build some base defenses for them, some more shielding, etc, etc. Another big thing they're adding for commanders are chassis. So this is something that I believe Chris Taylor wished they could have done with Supreme Commander and Forged Alliance, but just didn't have the time. So the ability to upgrade your commander to a different chassis. Perhaps it's one that's a little bit heavier armored, maybe it's one that's super heavy armored, or maybe it's one that's based on intel and technology. And each of these different variations that you can upgrade to will then have different upgrade options as well. So perhaps the heavily armored one is like a tank and gets a massive tank weapon. Maybe the intelligence one is much weaker but can have special intelligence to reveal the map and the fog of war, etc, etc. Again, some of these are just ideas that they have planned. Some of them are a little bit further forward than that, but some of it they're sort of keeping under their hats. But it's these things that really will set it apart from the games that have come before it. So let's move on to having a look at the battle footage that they've sent me and a little discussion around that. So the game's actually a bit further forward than I originally thought it was. A lot of the footage on their official YouTube is based around the graphics and the pretty effects and things like that. But the reality is that they've actually got it to a stage where you can build a base, you can build units, and you can play around a little. And you could, I think, connect to another player right now and you can have a little battle with them. The intention obviously being that you'll be able to do that with multiple people in the future, not just another single person. And they're already at a stage now where they can have potentially thousands of units in a game without it collapsing over on itself, and that's only going to improve over time. So this little bit of footage that I'm now running in the background is 2,000 Gen 1 tanks versus 400 Gen 3 tanks. So this is 2,400 units on a map, all battling out against each other. And this is quite a recent video, it's from earlier in the month, and it just goes to show how far they have come from what was being shown just a few months earlier than this on some other YouTube channels. Now, having spoken to one of the lead devs, Tatsu, who's one of the co-owners of the entire project, I could say that these guys have a genuine passion for this game. It was just two guys who set out to make a fantastic game, and their team has expanded beyond that quite considerably. They're now, I think, heading towards 20 members in their team. And if you head on over to their Discord, they're really keen on community involvement, so they've got various channels to chat, they like to show off artwork and concept art, and you can even sign up to be at one of the factions and get early access, I think, to some of that concept art for those particular factions. So they've got a really nice setup over there, and it is a very nice atmosphere. And even Tetsu, who is, as I say, one of the owners of the company, basically, will even welcome everybody who joins the server. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? How many big CEOs or leaders of a company would generally welcome you to their Discord server and have a chat with you? And this is the beauty of being one of these smaller indie developers who are trying to create a fantastic project by themselves. They can have that interaction with the community and actually get feedback, give feedback, etc, etc, etc. Now, the reality is I'm really excited about this project. Subcom and Forged Alliance are probably one of my favourite games ever, so to have a modern version of that with a load of new and exciting features and pretty updated graphics is like a dream come true. And honestly, when they stopped making Supreme Commander games, I thought that would be the end of that. So I'm really pleased that someone has picked up the mantle. Now, I don't want to disrespect certain other games which are also aiming to be that kind of total annihilation game. This just for me stands out because of its graphical quality and what it's trying to achieve with these additional features such as the map fracturing and also the changes in weather and things like that. Now, if you want more information on this project and want to support them, join their Discord, the link is below. Take a look at their Patreon, the link is also below in the description. And I would highly recommend checking out their Kickstarter, which has been delayed at least once so far, because they've done so well with the investment and funding that they've got from other sources. And that just goes to show how keen people are on this game and how much trust they're putting in this development team to get the job done. Now I'm going to call the video there, otherwise I'm just going to spend an hour here blabbering about how much I'm looking forward to this game and what other bits and pieces I can delve into. But thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned to the channel. As I say, the intent is to do an interview with Tatsu or one of the other development team members, depending on who's available. So please do let me know down below if you have any questions that you would like putting forward, and obviously I will take that into consideration. Thanks again for watching and have a great week, everyone.